Welcome to everyone, and thank you for being here. And we'll start out with Natalie sharing the PowerPoint. And I want to introduce Nazrullah Khan and Gianni Serrano from Department of Rehab to talk about the benefits of employers hiring workers with disability. So Gianni.
Good morning, everyone. So today we'll be talking about diverse abilities in the workplace. Next slide, please. So just a brief introduction of Division of Rehabilitation Services and myself. My name is Gianni Serrano, and I'm a business services consultant with the Division of Rehabilitation Services within the Planning and Business Development Unit.
And I apologize, I'm having connectivity issues, so I have my video off. I'm Nazrullah Khan. I'm a rehabilitation counselor at the Elgin office. And as a rehabilitation counselor, I serve individuals with disabilities and so that they can become prepared to enter, retain, or regain suitable employment. The cornerstone of my position is to assist my clients take their rightful place within the community as productive citizens.
And as business services consultants, what I do is I work with employers throughout the state, and we make sure that businesses have the workforce that they need to keep them competitive. We assist them with building a more disability inclusive workplace, and we match their needs to the interests and abilities of our customers. So we work together with both employers and the counselors to assist our customers with direct placements, and to help them earn a living wage into competitive and integrated employment. Next slide, please. So who do we serve? The Division of Rehabilitation uses a dual customer approach, and with that, we see persons with disabilities as well as employers as our customers. So some of the services we provide to individuals with disabilities include job placement services, training opportunities, education, job coaching, assistive technology. In regards to employers, we offer the opportunity to expand their workforce. We also offer tax credits and incentives. We assist them with getting return to work employees back to work. We provide access to experts on accommodations and technology, as well as access to disability awareness trainings. So in summary, we provide solutions for workforce needs of business customers while preparing talented and qualified job seekers with disabilities for their chosen careers. Next slide, please. So why hire a person with a disability? Some very important statistics to mention. 1 in 5 people, exactly 64 million in the US, identify as having a disability. And this is approximately 19% out of a total of 327 million people. So out of that 64 million, 35% are of prime working age, and that's between the ages of 16 and 64. According to the Office of Employment and Disability Policy, the labor force participation rate for people with disabilities is only 20.4%, whereas people without disabilities, the participation rate is 68.7%. So what does that mean? That's basically a very large untapped labor market that can be the answer to your workforce shortage. Next slide, please. So at DRS, we like to stress that not all disabilities are visual. A very common assumption about persons with disabilities is that they're usually using a wheelchair or they must have some very significant intellectual disabilities. However, there's a lot of common hidden disabilities that most people would not think are considered disabilities. So some of those include stroke, diabetes, heart disease, asthma, being a cancer survivor or currently going through the process, nervous system disorders, lung or respiratory problems, injuries that may have been sustained from accidents, recoveries from various addictions, arthritis, or mental illnesses. So these conditions, these are all conditions that our job seekers have. Next slide, please.
I want to go over briefly the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was signed into law in 1990. It's a comprehensive civil rights law. It prohibits discrimination on basis of disability in employment, state and local government programs, public accommodations, commercial facilities, transportation, and telecommunication. In the context of the ADA, disability is a legal term rather than a medical one. The ADA defines a person with a disability as a person who has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life functions. This includes people who have a record of such an impairment, even if they do not currently have a disability, but are regarded as having a disability. One of the things that comes to mind from my practice is mental disability could be one of these things that falls into that third category, where a person is doing really well currently, they're on their meds, everything is going well for them. It's not something that's visible at the time, but of course there's peaks and valleys with it. So a person has a disability, they're diagnosed with a mental disability, but they're doing well now. So some assumptions, I'm sorry, next slide, please. Some assumptions and facts to go over. I'm not going to read through all of it. Under the ADA, employers must give people with disabilities special privileges known as accommodations. Reasonable accommodations is probably a better word. Reasonable accommodations are intended to ensure that qualified individuals with disabilities have rights in employment equal, not superior, to those of individuals without disabilities. A reasonable accommodation is a modification to a job, work environment, or the way work is performed that allows an individual with a disability to apply for a job, perform the essential functions of the job, and enjoy equal access to benefits available. Assumption about providing accommodations for people with disabilities being expensive. The majority of workers with disabilities do not need accommodations to perform their job. And for those who do, the cost is usually minimal. Again, in my practice, what I notice is a very, very minimal accommodations for a vast majority. Again, working with people with mental disabilities, it was oftentimes just a scheduling shift that was necessary to accommodate the person. Perhaps the person couldn't start really early in the morning because they took their medications the night before that made them sleepy, or the morning medications didn't go well with them in the morning. So the ADA places a financial burden on small businesses that cannot afford to make up accommodations for individuals with disabilities. Businesses, fact is, businesses with fewer than 15 employees are not covered by the employment provision of the ADA. Moreover, a covered employee does not have to provide a reasonable accommodation that would cause an undue hardship. Undue hardship is defined as the action requiring significant difficulty or expense when considering in light of factors such as organizational size, financial resources, and the nature and structure of its operation. Next slide, please. Assumption: employees with disabilities have a higher absentee rate than employees without disabilities. Studies by firms such as DuPont show that employees with disabilities are not absent any more than employees without disabilities. Assumption: individuals with disabilities are not reliable. Individuals with disabilities tend to remain on the job and to maintain better levels of attendance. A U.S. Chamber of Commerce study revealed that workers with disabilities had an 80% lower turnover rate. People with disabilities are less productive than those without disabilities. Fact is, research consistently shows that people with disabilities want to work. Many people with disabilities feel that they need to work harder and perform better to prove themselves in their job role, resulting in productivity levels that are often higher. Next slide, please.
So now we're going to talk about some specific supports. As Nazrullah mentioned, these can be accomplished through technology, alternative work schedules, extra breaks, extended lunch periods, and different workspaces, such as working from home. So some highlighted supports that I wanted to mention is if someone has seasonal affective disorder, which is also known as seasonal depression, they can use something called the Circadian Optics Lugsy lamp. And how it works is with seasonal affective disorder, when the days become shorter and the nights become longer, it kind of throws off someone's internal body clock. And so what the lamp does, it kind of mimics the sunlight, which helps to relieve some of those symptoms of the seasonal defective disorder. I wasn't able to get the price on this one because it's currently sold out. But moving on to the next one, if someone has problems picking up office supplies due to a muscular dystrophy or multiple sclerosis, they can use the Weller vacuum pickup tool, which costs $76. If someone has vision problems and their job requires them to take measurements, they can use something called a talking tape measure. The price for that is $119.95. If someone has had a stroke and they have limited strength or grip in their hands, they can use the Palm Flex gloves, which cost as little as $15.99 per pair. So again, these are supports that, among many, DRS, the VR program, can pay for as long as the customer has a diagnosed disability, and the support will help the customer be successful at their chosen vocation. However, we do like to stress that 56% of supports cost nothing at all. Next slide, please. So some of the direct services that DRS offers to businesses include access to internships and training programs that we assist them with setting up. Other services include recruitment and promotion of their openings, as well as retention supports, worksite assessments. We also assist with assistive technology, as well as access to disability awareness and ADA training. We also provide access to the WOTC, which is a tax incentive, and much more. Next slide, please.
Just wanted to go over some of the benefits of accommodations. So the value proposition. Statistics show that 90% of employers reported a higher retention of a valued employee. 72% reported increased employee productivity. 60% reported eliminated costs by training the new employee. 38% reported saved workers' compensation or other insurance costs. 45% reported increased workplace safety. 28% reported increased profitability, and 17% reported increased customer base because they know the company has a robust diversity and inclusion culture. Next slide, please. So people with disabilities are one of the largest minority groups in the country, are the largest untapped talent pool of potential workers, are able to participate and succeed in employment with the right opportunities and the right support, bring unique skills and talents to the workplace, help organizations build a strong and diverse pipeline of skilled workers, which is critical for companies to grow their business and compete in the global economy. And then improve an employer's bottom line by reducing recruiting and training costs and increasing retention rates. Next slide, please.
So we've provided a few resources here. The DRS referral link is the first step for someone to receive services. So as employers, if you know someone, maybe an employee that maybe has a condition that they may need some assistance with, feel free to share this link with them and they can get started and, hopefully begin to receive some services with us. The next resource is the Job Accommodation Network. This is a very great educational resource for both job seekers and employers, where they can give accommodation evaluations, and they also provide scenarios of job seekers with certain conditions and what accommodations in the workplace can be done to assist them. And then the last one is the talent acquisition portal. This is a job search tool similar to like Indeed, except it's geared specifically towards individuals with disabilities. So as an employer, if you're interested in signing up with them, you'd be able to post your positions, your open positions, and look for that specific pool of talent. Next slide, please. And that's all we have. We have our contact information here. And the best way to get in touch with us is via email. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you both. I wanted to focus just 1 second on that slide that you pointed out, the participation rate, significantly different than the participation rate for all others, and that we sometimes misunderstand that the number of people that are working is determined or are shown by the unemployment rate, which right now the unemployment rate is very low. So sometimes some people will think, well, everybody has gone back to work basically. Participation rate is a different number. So unemployment rate is for those that are collecting unemployment. Not everyone's collecting unemployment. So there's a large number of people that are available for work. And what I saw, 20% participation rate for those with disabilities, that's extremely low. So you might, as we go through the rest, you might have some questions or comments yourself. Put those in the chat if you would. And as we go forward, Natalie will be monitoring those. And like I said, we'll have time at the end to explore some more. So one thing that is being recognized is that by the Illinois legislature has a bill that will provide for tax credits for those that are in recovery for substance abuse and mental illness. So what we're recognizing is we need to provide some assistance and help for those that are in the workforce and have a disability like substance abuse or mental illness, and to provide those employers with some help to keep those employees working. There's other benefits that we want to talk about now. Greg Biscoe, you want to start with IDS and what you have to offer?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Greg Misko with IDES. I'm a business services coordinator working with employers. My area of that I look over is McHenry County as well as Lake County and the northern tier of Cook County. Next. The Work Opportunity Tax Credit, or WOTC, or as somehow we like to refer to it affectionately as WOTC, is a program by the federal government from the U.S. Department of Labor and the U.S. Treasury, which is also under the overseer of IRS. So the Department of Labor sets the standards and the policies, and the states, in this case, our agency, IDES, is the state workforce agency that administers the tax program, and the IRS, of course, handles all the tax details. Next. So the basic rules here for the tax credit is, there are a number of different eligible groups under the law, under the whole program. And so it's based on the hours of worked and the wages during the year. So if the employee you hire has disabilities, works at least 120 hours, you can claim a tax credit of 25% of their wages up to the maximum credit, which is $2,400. Now, somebody who's works at least 400 hours a week, in a year, can claim 40% of their first year's wages up to the maximum credit of $2,400. Next, please. So there's the targeted groups here for disabilities. There's two different types. One is a vocational rehabilitation referral, which is someone who comes through an agency like DRS and others like Pioneer Center, and there's a number of private agencies that work with people with disabilities and help them get job ready. So they are referred to an agency. There's also a couple other things. There's a Rehabilitation Act of 1973. There's the Employment Network Plan under the Ticket to Work program, that's through WIOA. And there's also the Department of Veteran Affairs, which has their own programs for disabled veterans. Also, SSI recipients are eligible as well. And again, the maximum credit is $2,400. Next. Oh, before I go on here, just mention the veterans. Many of you are familiar with veterans at WOTC, and there are disabled veterans that are under this category, and those are disabled veterans who achieved their disability while in military service. It does not include the veterans who developed a disability after they left their military service. So those veterans who develop disabilities after their military service are considered like veterans who didn't have disabilities. They have a maximum credit of $4,800. And if you hire a veteran that is certified by the VA to have had their disability while in military, active duty military, they will get a $9,600 maximum tax credit based on the same rules I just mentioned earlier. So I just wanted to make that differentiation between veterans and non-veterans. So, here on this screen, you got the contacts. These are the people in downtown Chicago in our WOTC unit. These two individuals approved the applications. It is a process, and I don't have the slide for it here. It's a process of downloading forms for the IRS. I think your accounting people, if they work with veterans, should be familiar with that process. It's downloading the forms and mailing them to that address you see there, 33 South State in Chicago. And those can be downloaded. The forms can be downloaded. Unfortunately, you can't file online, but you still have to send it through U.S. Postal Service. And it's 30 days after you hire the individual. You have to submit your forms within that period, and it has to be postmarked by that time. That's about it for me, Tom. Tom, you've got to turn on your mic.
Tom, you're muted.
I'm new at this. So another resource that it could be very helpful is through the WIOA program. And Pete Hall, Business Service at McHenry County Workforce, we'll talk a little bit about that. Pete?
Good morning, everyone. I'm like Tom said, I'm one of the business service reps for McHenry County Workforce along with Tom. So the WIOA funding, WIOA stands for Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. The funding for that is all through federal grants that we receive through the county, and then we want to try and spend all the money we get from the federal government. That's our job. For an individual, there's certain barriers individual has to meet to get into our program. So if you have questions about how an individual can be enrolled in our program, we can answer that at the end of the program. And the question and answers, as Natalie is the professional intake coordinator. So a couple things we can offer. we have interns, and that's where one of our customers would be placed in your job, and we would pay their wages while they're working for them. And we're not like a staffing company where I would say, okay, Joe's going to be there at 8 a.m. on Monday. Good luck. No. So what we do is we ask for the job description from your company, and then I have someone in mind, or the career planners may have someone who may be a good fit. Then we'll send that job description to the customer. And if they feel it's a good fit, we'll send the resume over to your company. You get to review the resume. And then we also ask that you actually interview our customer too. And that way you can learn more about them. And also our customer can learn more about your company, as we want it to be a good fit for everyone. And with the internship, we generally start at part-time, 20 hours a week, but they can work up to 40 hours a week. We start with 240 hours, so that'd be 12 weeks part-time, 6 weeks full-time. And it can be extended as long as it's a benefit to our customers. So maybe they're in the middle of working on a project that's a benefit to the customer, or after the 12 weeks, you want to train them in a different area of your company. So that's a benefit to the customer. And also with the internship work experience, you are not required to hire them at the end of the hours that are allotted. You are more than welcome to hire them, but it's not an obligation. And same with our customer too, who's working there. You may want to offer them the position, but they may decide this is not for me. So there's, both ways. There's no expectation of being hired, but definitely have the option to hire them. And so if you do hire them, we roll that into on-the-job training, where we reimburse the wages of the customer back to the company, not to the customer, for 4 to 6 months. So with on-the-job training, the huge caveat with this is all the paperwork on our end has to be completed before they can actually start working with you. And on-the-job training is where you actually hire them into your company. So they're your employee. And with on-the-job training, we would write a training plan, and then we would do, depending on how many months, we'd do anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5 monitorings with the customer at your work site with their supervisor to make sure all the training goals are being met. And after every monitoring, well, actually before our monitoring, we will ask for timesheets and payroll stubs. And those timesheets are determine how many hours we will reimburse back to the employer. And I don't know if I mentioned, but we can reimburse anywhere from 50 up to 75%. So some of the things are, we can't really do it for a job that's going to pay $100,000 a year, but we could probably go up to $25 an hour for reimbursements. And then we also have incumbent worker training, and that is for your employees who are actually working at your company. And let's say you may have a hard time finding new people, and you just decide, you know what, it'll be easier just to upskill my own workforce. So this is where this comes in. Or let's say you have a new machine coming into the plant, and the training is going to cost $5,000 to get everyone trained on this machine. So with the incumbent worker training, we would reimburse the training cost back to your company, and it's dependent on the size of your company. It's anywhere from 50 to 90% that we would reimburse back to your company. So if you pay $5,000, if it's 90%, we would pay, yeah, my math is not that good, almost $5,000. So that's just a quick rundown of what we have. If you have any questions at the end, feel free to ask me. And Tom and I are always available to come out and meet with you one-on-one to give a more in-depth description.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Just to add one thing, because with regard to hiring people with disabilities and how this may play in to what we could do with incumbent worker training. You know, as an employer, the employer may say, well, you know, I'd like to do this, but I don't know that I have supervisors that have the training to work with those individuals. And so what we can look at is providing a training that meets your needs, and the workforce would pay for that training in the form of a reimbursement. But at least it would cover the cost of training your supervisors. A lot of companies will do this supervisor training for other areas, but that might be a sticking point for those that don't feel comfortable having a supervisor that can work with specific individuals. So keep that in mind. Pete and I can talk to you about any questions you have regarding that.
Mm-hmm.
So
That
we
is correct.
thanks, Pete.
No problem.
We save the best for last, in my view, and that is the story of how this works. And it's a great story. Shannon, we're gonna open it up to you to tell that story.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. So my name is Shannon Cezadlo. I'm here with,
My name's Ashley Dom, and I'm the employment specialist for Project Search program.
yeah, we both work at Northwestern Medicine Woodstock Hospital for a program called Project Search. We also have with us from Calco Industries, Angel Sanchez, and an employee that they hired, Tanner, just to talk a little bit about the whole process of hiring somebody with a disability and what that may look like for your company and their point of view. Real fast, so about our program, we work with individuals 18 to 24 that have intellectual or developmental disabilities. We work with them at the hospital where they participate in 3 different 10-week internships. At the end of our program, we work with them to look for jobs, and that's where we start becoming an actual job coach. So when you're hiring someone with an individual, with our program, you get also a job coach, and some of you may not know what a job coach is. Never heard of this term before. Basically, we start at the beginning where we assist individuals with their job search. We help them create their resume. We help them apply to jobs. We might even reach out to your company and say, we'd like to have our individual, or we call them interns, tour your facility to see if they're comfortable there before we even interview, just to get a feel for it. We'll look at the job description. We'll take a deeper look too into the actual company to see if this is would be a good match for the individual. We're going to go ahead with the individual. We're going to help set up that interview. And we will actually come with them to the interview. We always like to make it clear we're not there to answer the questions for the person we're interviewing or that you're interviewing. We encourage our interns or individuals to go ahead and answer the questions themselves. You're going to be asking them the questions. We might, though, assist if something is confusing. If maybe you ask it in a way that they don't understand what you're asking, we might step in and then go ahead and try to help them answer the question. We'll assist in the whole interview process.
So something else we help with is we assist with orientation and onboarding. So let's say that one of our interns or individuals come to your company, we would help them with filling out paperwork and kind of like their clock in and out procedures. We would also help them with if there's any type of safety trainings. We would assist the intern in that as well. And then if they have tax forms or different things that are required, we help them fill that out as well. We also, as job coaches, create accommodations. Like DRS was kind of saying earlier, Nazrullah speaking on reasonable accommodations. We provide those as job coaches at Project Search. So if you employ one of our interns, we could do things like set timers to ensure that they leave on time. We can make task lists to make sure that they have support of all their duties for the day. We also create like visual pictures, and different things like that they can utilize to support them on the job.
Yeah, and I want to say along with the accommodations, we often find when we create an accommodation for the individual that you hired, quite often the manager likes the accommodation so much, they somehow implement it into using it for all their employees. So maybe it's a list that everybody has to sign off their initial or time when they're finished with a certain task. And it holds everybody accountable. But like I've seen that quite often when employers really like what we create to hold the employee accountable, and they use that for more than just the intern with the disability.
Yeah, and we also serve as that bridge between the employer and parents. So for example, our individuals or interns, they are all adults. So they're not going to have, their mom or dad calling their boss or communicating that. And they might need that extra support though. So that's where we come in as the job coach, and we make sure, that we have the employer's emails and phone numbers, and we communicate whether if they have a shift change or, they're struggling with something at work, we can always step back in and provide that support as it's needed.
Yeah, and we start pretty strong. We're in the beginning, we are there a lot. We are there right next to the employee, seeing how we can help to make the job successful. And we also see where we can match the employee maybe with, if there is a problem, who can the employee go to? We call it fading and then we start fading almost from day one. We're there a lot in day one, and then we're there less and less and less. And we want the employee to be able to be independent. We don't want you to feel like you're babysitting, or you have to give a lot of extra attention to the employee. I mean, they are the ones that we're talking about are young adults. They can do these jobs. That's why you're hiring them. So we want them to treat you as such as young adults. And that goes to say, like, if problems come up, I often say, what would you do with a regular employee? If somebody is late, would you write them up? They need to be written up then. So sometimes people don't want to be mean, but you have to be realistic too. This is your employee. You hired them. Treat them as such. Another thing I want to say is we also can be present for reviews. Sometimes a 90-day review comes up, or even an annual review. And sometimes it's just good to have another set of eyes and ears there to see if there are small problems that can be adjusted. Everyone has room for improvement. So sometimes it just might mean a job coach sitting in at the review to say, okay, we can work on these different items that we see you need to work on. And I always say, like, if any problems come up, I encourage the employer to go ahead and contact us. Because we might have a way to help the employee be successful. And in the end, that's all we want is a successful match. We want the employer to be happy with the employee. So with that being said, I can introduce Angel, who works at Kelco Industries. And that's Tanner too. Tanner is on this video as well. So Angel, I'm trying to think. Okay, I can't see your camera's not on, which is fine. But I was just going to.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I wanted just to ask you a couple questions about Angel. Works at Kelco Industries, and why don't you do a short introduction, Angel?
So hi, my name is Evangeline Angel for short. It's easier to remember. I work in AMT primarily to help with their scheduling, and I have also a couple people with me, if it's okay if I introduce them as well.
Please do.
I have John Cleaver. I have Bob
Dubiel.
Sorry, I struggle with last names. And I have Lori.
I'm Lori Walters. I'm the HR director.
And so John actually initiated this whole project, if I'm not mistaken. And then I just had a lot of fun and kind of took it over. No, just kidding. But so yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us. So it's great to have you all here with us. we kind of wanted to touch base with or tell the story of a real employer that has hired somebody with a disability, and just talk a little bit about what the hiring process was like hiring one of our interns, Tanner. Can you tell us a little bit about what the hiring?
I'm actually
yeah.
going to have John probably go in depth more because he was more involved with the hiring process on that.
Sure, that's fine.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
So we worked with Cecilia, who was HR before Lori came on board. And Cecilia and I worked real close with the PAEP for looking for some identifying some individuals that have some, that can do some tasks for us. We have a lot of tasks in our building. We're really diverse manufacturer, very manual oriented at this point. And we have quite a few opportunities where we don't have the need for a college education to do some of our manufacturing. We don't have the need for, we have some areas where we could accept the disabilities without any issues. There wasn't going to be any issues if someone couldn't do certain things because that task doesn't require that. So we got introduced to Shannon and Cecilia, and we started working through with Tanner to begin with. And it was quite a nice experience because we got to walk through the building. We got to walk through each of the value streams that we have in this building and show Tanner what was available to him. Okay. And start understanding what his capabilities were. And then as we started working through that, we found that, hey, we have multiple areas where Tanner's more than capable of doing a full-time job for us, and it kind of grew from there. Tanner's been an absolute great employee. He has set the standard for being here on time.
Yep.
Being at his workstation when the clock starts. He's just there, does his work all day, does a very good job at it, and he loves grilled cheese sandwiches.
Yes, he does.
Yes. So yeah, Calco was awesome with when we applied. We heard about Calco. I'm not even sure how we initially heard about Calco, but it might have even been through Pete at the WorkNet. So we reached out to them, and they were so willing to let to interview Tanner, and they offered him a job, and Tanner accepted. We'll talk about this a little bit with Tanner too. And then he thought about it and he wasn't sure. And then we asked if we could give a tour, and they were gracious enough to let Tanner tour along with myself and his mom, that is not necessary, but it was very, very nice that they offered that. It made everybody feel more comfortable in the process. And then mom was able to see a little bit of what Tanner might be doing. Tanner was able to see what he might be doing. And he was a little more interested, and then I wanted to touch base. Angel, I know you're the one that works with us the most. How would you say it is working alongside a job coach? Like, how have we helped the process?
You guys have helped significantly. It's nice to have you guys there, especially for questions or support. It also brightens their day whenever their job coach comes in, and then I can brag and be like, please show them what you do. But it does help a lot, and I can see it brings a lot of joy and light to everybody involved. So it helps.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and we love coming there too. It helps. So, we love coming to see their success too. It's great. I talked a little bit about fading and how we come less and less. But I want, so you've seen this firsthand, Angel, where we're there a lot in the beginning, and then a little bit less as we move on. But when problems arise, like what do you do? How do you go about solving them?
So honestly, it always just starts with first listening to their question, because it's always pretty simple. And then I ask them to show me what exactly the question is. And then from there, we try to find ways to resolve it. So whether that's, Angel, you said there's always supposed to be a green bin here. Where is the green bin? And it's, oh, okay, well, let me show you. Or even earplugs or anything, red bins. And then they just become self-independent essentially. And by the next day, they're like, oh, I don't have my red bin or green bin or blue bin. I know where to get it from. And they're completely 100% essentially independent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you go from, we talk about accommodations and easy things to do. For example, Tanner, we have a locker for each of our employees and we encourage them to bring a lock in just to make sure that anything that's personal in there is kept safe. But we afford them a combination lock. Well, that wasn't working out really well with Tanner. I was opening his locker of the mornings and stuff. So we did as simple as we got Tanner a key lock. Okay. So now all Tanner has to do is come in and open his locker with a key. Okay. It's that simple. It's just a matter of listening to the individual, understanding what makes them work efficiently, and then providing that to them and making that part of your job description. Okay?
Yeah, that's a great example of an accommodation that was a simple accommodation that helped Tanner become more independent at his job.
Yep.
And that's a great example of that. Thank you for that. And Angel recently also put a little incentive with Tanner at his workstation. He has a goal of finishing how many trays, Angel?
So it is 5 trays, and Tanner has exceeded that pretty much every single week, to a point where he's gotten 5 and 6. And in the beginning, he was like, okay, we'll try. And then he slowly just kept improving every single day.
So would you say it took Tanner a long time to catch on, or just
No,
to get him?
No.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe like a couple of, I want to say maybe half an hour, if that, just to teach him the method that we wanted him to do. And then he just took off from there.
And I would say the longest part of this, and we're still learning, we learn what makes Tanner tick. Okay. So we learn those, as we grow with him and he grows with us, we understand that, when we mention grilled cheese, that's a note that, hey, there's a possibility of,
a fun
favorite.
Yep.
That's a favorite thing. So there's all that kind of stuff that you learn as you start to embrace the ability that Tanner has to help us, get better.
Yes.
Okay. It makes everybody.
Yeah. And I would say in a way, it's no different than other employees, right? You find out what helps them and you use their abilities, right? Which will lead. So Tanner, thank you for coming and staying with us. I'm so happy to see you here. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, I know the interview process was a long time ago, but do you remember what that was like?
Yeah, I remember a bit of it.
Yeah. What do you remember about it?
Well, I remember filling out the application, visiting Calgo to, see what the job was like, and just the rest of the process. I can't really remember the details.
Yeah. Do you remember your first day there? How you felt?
I felt nervous for one.
Yeah. And, but I think, they've, helped you, right? You right away, I think we found Angel to stop by and just make sure you were doing okay. Right?
Yep. She's really good at doing that.
She's real good at doing that. Good. And what are your hours?
My hours are 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday.
Okay. And is that, you feel like you're working enough?
Yeah,
for right now, I think
For right now,
I
you
know
like
where
it.
you're going, Tanner, you know.
We've asked Tanner if he wanted to work more and
Yeah.
he says he likes his schedule.
Yes, he likes his 3-day weekend. That's okay. But that's
All
good. I
right.
mean, it's good.
Yep.
It's, and they'll take it, right? So from the beginning, Tanner, do you remember on your very first day what you were able to do versus what you can do now?
Um,
Well, I
I
can
remember-
help you, Tanner. Do you remember when we first started? Yeah, you were in that left-hand photo there of, all we were doing were O-rings there for the longest time. And now we've expanded that to where now you're over there at a actual Dennison press, breaking the tie bars, which is a big important process in the Allison Bobbin program we have. So, he's progressed. It's, we tried to introduce new portions of the same process flow, just to keep things familiar and recognizable, you know, as we push through that system. But he's grown tremendously since the day he started.
Yes. We
He
can,
comes in, he knows this is his job, and he gets right to it. And he's very comfortable. I think he's comfortable around his peers
oh yeah.
and his coworkers. And we've all become comfortable around him as well. So Tanner has really grown over the year that he's been here.
Tanner, how do you feel like it's going now?
I feel like it's going really well. I definitely improved on my work speed, and yeah, I've gotten really comfortable working at Kelco.
That's great. And have you met some other people as well?
Yeah, I've met a lot of great people like John and Angel, for example.
Yeah. That's awesome. So overall, you would give this whole experience an A or 10 out of 10?
Yeah,
10 out of 10.
yeah, 10 out of 10.
I shouldn't say that. I should have asked you, but I'm glad. No, I see, you can see Tanner, like, I love that picture of you in the left-hand side because you are smiling. You're happy.
Smiling, yeah.
Yeah. And you enjoy going there, right?
Yeah,
Good. Good.
it's a great place.
It is a great place. And I'd like to say a couple things. We also gave Kelco an award last year from our agency because they have been so accommodating, and they make it seem effortless. They make it seem like, you know, they appreciate the employee that'll show up on time every day, right? And do the work. And that's what Tanner does. They hired another one of our interns from this year who works right next to Tanner now, not doing the same thing, but is doing a different job. And we're working alongside them right now too. And the perk now is we have a great relationship with Kelco. We get to go see Tanner succeed. Now we get to see our new intern Josh succeed. And I'm certain we will have future interns placed with Kelco because they have been tremendous to work with. So I'd like to thank them for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Shannon. And thank you. And I'm glad to hear that Kelco was recognized, and they should be recognized and awarded for what they have done. I'm impressed that it wasn't just Angel. Thank you, John, Lori, and you have a team, which indicates to me that there's a cultural buy-in there at Kelco to be creative and you can provide what is needed for each individual, regardless of disability or no disability problems. Tanner's comment about being nervous the first day made me think, you know, we have more in common than we are different. I mean, who's not nervous the first day? And
Yep.
who doesn't need some training? We all do. And it takes
Oh,
us
yeah.
time to get to a point.
I was nervous. I
Yeah.
was nervous when Tanner was coming. New employees always make me nervous.
So I hear from, I did put one question in here, and this may be a good, maybe we direct this to Kelco. it wasn't really a question, it really is a comment that comes to mind when I deal with a lot of employers, and that they're either thinking or they're saying that, you know, these are great programs, but great programs mean a lot of paperwork, a lot of work, and is it going to be worth doing that? So maybe, John, you want to address, can you address that concern?
Well, unfortunately, I can't really, because I didn't do any of the paperwork or anything that went through. I got to do the fun stuff, right? I got to bring Tanner in and show him the ropes and everything. Lori I don't know if you can expand on
Yeah,
that.
so Shannon, with our recent transition in our HR department, we may not have the experience to answer that question. Wondering if you could jump in and help.
Well, I can only say I have, from what I knew, we helped with some paperwork on the employer side. It didn't seem to be overwhelming. I think the benefit of having an employee like Tanner, like Josh, I don't think the paperwork was overwhelming for anybody. Otherwise, you guys wouldn't want more of our interns, because the benefit of having them outweighs any paperwork that you have to complete. That didn't seem to be a barrier at all. And so I can't, like I said, unfortunately, the individual that initially hired Tanner is no longer there. So that's why we're all at a loss for words. But I do know after Tanner, they hired Josh, and I do know they're happily taking any more of our interns moving forward. So it can't be that hard.
I can add
No,
into.
we didn't get any griping or anything from that side of the picture when Cecilia was here. We never at any time said, wow, this is a pain. I know it worked in through like a regular hire for us. As far as some of those other programs that you mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, I don't know how that related to us. Okay, I don't know exactly if we want for reimbursement or that type of thing at that time, so I can't speak to that. But we never got any kind of indicating that this was overwhelmingly hard to get through the system, or to hire this one person and was more difficult than a regular hire. That's about all I can add.
Okay, thanks, John. I can add in as well, just being a job coach for Project Search and recently placing an intern there, which we were speaking of Josh. Cecilia was still in HR at Calco at the time. So what it kind of looked like for me and Josh was Josh needed a lot of extra support with paperwork type of stuff. So he really relies on his parents. So what we did is Cecilia kind of took over HR stuff for Calco, and then I took over our paperwork for Project Search. And then we also came together and like things like tax forms and like different types of things for his account for Calco. Cecilia just printed out the forms, and then I added notes in there to accommodate and support Josh's parents in the process of making sure that like his payroll is set up and different things like that. So it's more so like us as job coaches working together, like we were saying, being that bridge and supporting Calco and then supporting the parents. And we would just print out paper copies and different stuff like that to ensure that every step was taken.
Okay, so thank you all. We have a lot more we could talk about, but unfortunately we have 10 o'clocks that people have to get to. So one last reminder is that next week we have our job fair. If you are an employer and you want to register, I think there are a couple places still available. We will be sending out the PowerPoint. And if you have any other questions regarding any of the other programs as far as paperwork, Greg, Pete, myself, contact us and we could talk to you about and show you it's really not what you think it might be overwhelming. So thank you again all for presenting. Thank you all for attending. And as they say, we'll see you at the fair. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.